Hi all, I want to do another video about Korg M1 LE. Before we get started, I just want to run through this real quick. If you go to the Korg website, korg.com, and click on products, it brings you to this page. And then if you click on synthesizers, it brings you to this page. And then if you scroll down here, it lists all of their keyboards. And for the most part, if you have the software on your computer, you really don't need one of these. All you need is a simple keyboard that's called a controller. And what that does is you play the keyboard and it controls the software on the computer. So the reason why I say that is some of these are really expensive. We're talking thousands of dollars. And it's basically the same thing built into these machines that we have in the software that we're doing the videos on. Okay, so just for the sake of the video, just to run through this, if you come down here where it says software synthesizers, and if we click on Korg Legacy Collection, it brings us to this page. And you can see, if you scroll down here, it says special bundle. You can upgrade to this for $99. They're actually selling you 6 products, and they show the products here and the regular price. So if you wanted to just upgrade to the M1 LE, you could do that for $49. But for another $50, they throw in all this other stuff. So I haven't done that yet either. But just this guy here looks pretty cool. Got 19 effects. So that's basically what we're going to do. In this video, we're just going to do an introduction to the effects. Effects is a major study. You know, you can study this stuff for years and still not understand it all, but I want to get you started. Okay, so this web page here is just about effects. In general, you can call effects audio signal processing. We're going to process the signal. So we're going to take the signal and do something to it. You know, what is the signal? You know, the signal is what's coming from the keyboard, what's coming from the guitar, what's coming from the bass, or what's coming from the voice. And then we change the signal. In the old days, everything was analog. Like a cassette tape, or a record, you know, the old plastic records, vinyl records, or 8-track tape, you know, that's analog, it's tape. That all kind of went away back in the 90s or so, and everything went to computer stuff. When it's on the computer, it's all digital. Something that I noticed happening years ago is everything went digital, and then they spend thousands of dollars buying signal processors to make it sound like analog. So that's, yeah. And I'm sure you've seen where some people are going back to buying regular vinyl records because they think they sound better, you know. Okay, so main reason why I wanted to show you this page is this is a list of the effects. There's all types of things that you can do to a sound. You know. Basically, when it comes to signal processing, you just want to clean it up a little bit and maybe add some fancy stuff to it. Okay, so don't clean it up too much, because if you clean the sound too much, you can ruin it. You can make it sound robotic, you know, as an extreme way to describe it, you know. Or if you add too much fancy stuff to it, then you just sound silly and it makes you sound like an amateur. Okay, so that being said, let's get started here. Okay, so we're talking about the master effects page on the software. So here, let's start this up. I'll show you what I'm talking about. We'll start up the software. So if we click on master effects here, you can see there's two types here, serial and parallel. Those are the two main types. And when you click on one here, they're showing you how it works here. You click on one here, they're showing you how it works here. So don't let these diagrams scare you. It's not all that complicated. That's why I wanted to go out to this page here. When we look at these keyboards, they're trying to take what they did here inside this machine and simulate it inside this guy here. And they're taking something in the real world and trying to simulate it on the computer. Sometimes that's kind of hard to do, you know. If I have just a rack mount box, I plug two cords in the back for stereo, left and right, you know, and then take two more cords out for output, left and right. It's real easy to see what's happening, you know. Trying to see that inside here, it's a little bit more tricky. Okay, so in general, when we do serial signal processing, the whole signal is affected. Okay, when we do parallel, there's actually two signals, and we'll go into more detail here. This is just a quick introduction. When we do parallel, the main signal is left unchanged. That's what they call dry. And then they add some fancy stuff into it. For instance, let's say we have a sound of a keyboard and you just got the main keyboard sound as it comes out of the computer. Then you add a little echo to it. Well, the main sound is still there, but then there's another echo on top of it. You know, the main sound is still here, but then there's some echo too. So we'll go into detail as we get into the video here. So it's not that complicated. Don't let it scare you. Okay. Once you understand what's happening. Okay, so we started up Korg M1 LE. It's nice to pin it to the taskbar because then you can start it up with one click. So let's see here. Click the Master FX button. That's this guy here, and you can see these two guys here. If you click the Program button here, then you can click this insert effect here, and it's basically showing you the same thing. Okay, so next we'll go over number 3. Click multi. Make sure performance is selected here, and then click the browser. Click search. All we're doing here is selecting a sound to fool around with. Click piano. Double click piano 16 here so it loads into here. Okay, so now we have piano 16 loaded into here, and then just play a sound on your keyboard to make sure it's working. Okay, this is where it might get a little tricky. There might be different ways that you can move around through this stuff, so that's why I have it just mapped out step by step. This stuff here is if you want to get into changing your piano sound. You actually want to go in and change the patch, change the sound. For now, all we're going to do is add an effect to it. Okay, so click Master Effects. Make sure Serial is selected here. And notice down here, there's no effects here, and there's no effects here. So we can add 2 effects to it, number 1 and number 2. See how this one here, number 1 is light green? You can click here to select 2, 1, 2, and these change along with it. So this part goes with this one, and this part goes with this one here. Okay, so this is just a bigger representation of this. Turn FX2 off. So we would come up here and click the on button and turn that off. It's off because we don't have anything selected, but I just wanted to show you that we can turn that off. And then lower send 1 and send 2 to 0. Send 1 is 0, send 2 is 0. So if we left click and go up, then these increase. If we left click and hold, left click and hold and pull down, then that goes down. So left click and hold and push up, and then I release the mouse. Left click and hold, push up. Left click and hold, push up. Left click, pull down, release the mouse. Left click and hold, pull down, pull down. I think you can click here and type in a number 2. Let's see here. And then hit the enter key. So just depends on how you like to work. So what I'm saying here is just make sure both these are down to 0. And then lower both levels to 0. Okay, so there's a level here. Left click and pull down. Left click and pull down. I'm just showing you how to turn things off. Okay, then, just for the sake of the video, piano 16 is going out number 1 and 2. 1 and 2 is like stereo, left and right. So that's what they're showing us here by this white and red line. Like the white line would be number 1, red would be number 2, left and right. Just to help you kind of understand what's going on the back of the M1, there's these outputs. Okay, see how this one is number 1, this one is number 2. Number 1 is left, number 2 is right. That's for like right and left stereo. And then there was 3 and 4. What you could do is have some of the sounds coming out this one, some of the other sounds coming out this one. The reason why you would do that type of thing is like these 2 would go to a mixer, track 1 and 2. These 2 would go to another spot in the mixer, track 3 and 4. And then since they're separated, you could do different things to them. You could add more bass or add more treble or add some different effect, you know. So that's what they're trying to simulate there. So in real simple terms, you can think of that as number 1 goes to one speaker and number 2 goes to another speaker. Okay, left and right stereo. So that's what they're doing here. You know, piano sound goes out 1 and 2, goes out 1 and 2. Okay, just for the sake of the video, if we go back to the program mode and click insert effect, it's a little bit easier to see here. See how out 1 and 2, 1 goes out here and then goes out here. B goes through here and then goes out here. And then I'm new at this stuff too, but I think what they're saying with this stuff here, it's like, what's going on with the signal here? How can this one go over here and this one go over here? I think they're just, that's their way of saying you could panning from right to left. You can pan a sound to the left, you can pan a sound to the right. I think that's their way of saying you could take the sound on this side and pan it to this side if you want. Or you could take a sound on this side and pan it to this side, you know, if you wanted to. Why you would want to do that, I don't know. You know, maybe you got some strange sound effect for a movie, you know, a weird sound effect crashing or something, and you want it to come off this side, but it just happens to be on this side. You want it to come out the left, you know. But you can see it's just a little easier to see in this diagram as to what's going on. The sound is going out 1 and 2. So it's like this is 1 and this is 2. Then it goes through the effect. You can turn the effect off and on. And then you can add panning to it. And then it goes through effect 2. And then it goes out the back of the keyboard into the mixer or your speakers. Down here, you know, since we're here, what this is showing you here is they're taking the dry signal. So you have a separate dry signal here, and then they're running another line, putting it through the effect, and then you mix it back in with the other line. So that's why they have a DW here, dry and wet. Dry would be the unaffected signal. Wet would be the affected signal, you know, where all the echo is. And that would be this guy here. How much effect do you want in? You want it all? You want the whole thing affected? or you just want to mix in just a little bit. Once we start playing with the sounds, then that'll make more sense to you. So that's what we're going to do next. It's not that hard, okay? I didn't say it was going to be easy, but it's not that hard, okay? It's just kind of tricky to see on this little screen here. So. Okay, so to get back to our example, we'll go to Multi, Master Effect. Now we'll do this next part here. I'm going to put on my headphones so I can hear what's going on too. I don't have it hooked up to a speaker. Okay, choose FX1. So we'll click on this guy here. You can see how that one lit up too. And then just make sure it's on. Make sure it's on serial. My panning, I haven't changed my panning, so my panning's left 50 and right 50. So it's just going right down the middle. And then play the piano sound. Okay, so there's nothing there, right? There's just a piano sound. Okay, so to follow my my steps here, on FX1 choose distortion. So on FX1 choose distortion. So just click this little down arrow and choose distortion. Now normally you wouldn't put distortion on a keyboard sound or a piano sound, but we're just doing that one so we have some big effect so we can hear what's going on. So, and then play the piano sound and you won't hear a distortion. Okay, increase send 1 to 99. So send 1 here. Left click and hold and push up all the way. This increases the amount of distortion. It's like turning a knob up to 10. 1 being off, 10 being maximum. So we turned up the distortion all the way. Now you play the piano sound and there is no distortion, right? Increase the top level to 50%. That's this guy here. Increase that to 50%. Now you hear the distortion. Okay, so this increases the overall loudness. The amount of distortion stays the same. See, if we play around with this, the amount of distortion is the same, but how loud the keyboard is, you know. See, the keyboard's just louder. See, this is the amount of distortion here. See, if we lower this to 50, you can see there's not as much distortion. If we turn that off, then all we have is a piano sound. Okay, just in case you're interested, these headphones are Sony MDR-V. Looks like a 6. MDR-V6. those are the ones for digital. The old ones, like these are my old ones from the music store. These have been around 20 years. It's the same headphones, but these were for analog. These were MDR 7506. MDR 7506. So these were for regular analog tape type thing. And then what they did was they came out with the new ones for the digital sounds. Both of them still work great, but for some reason the MDR-V6 were for digital. So, if you're getting into the recording stuff, and you want a good headphone, this is the one to have. They're about $100, maybe a little less. You can catch them on Amazon. Once in a while they have them on deal of the day. I think I got that pair for like $49 or something like that. So you just have to watch Amazon deal of the day and hope they come up. The whole idea of that is most headphones that you buy for regular music, just to listen to music, they will color the sound. They will add more bass, add more treble, where when you're recording and you're making music, you don't want that. You want to hear what the sound is. So that's the purpose of those headphones. They don't color the sound. They don't change it. Normal headphones will work if you're just fooling around the house, but if you're going to go out and spend the money on a better set of headphones, those are the ones that I would recommend. There's definitely more expensive ones. You can spend $200-300 easy for a good pair of recording headphones, but from my understanding, those are the ones that most big recording studios use. So, of course, if you can afford the better ones, get them. A cheaper version, I don't know. I really haven't paid much attention, but I'm sure if you go out onto the music store websites, there's probably all types of brands that you can choose from. Okay, so I have some graphics that I made that might help you understand this. So let's see, here's the first one. See, there's two types of signal processing, serial and parallel, right? In serial signal processing, the sound comes out of our keyboard, left and right for stereo, goes into our signal processing box. See how this is serial signal processing. The whole sound goes in left, the whole sound goes in right. The sound is signal processed, and then the whole sound comes out. There is no unaffected sound. The whole signal is affected. Okay? There's no dry and wet. It's all wet. The whole thing is changed. Okay? And then that goes to your speakers. So there's a different category of signal processing here. What constitutes a signal processor? Things like a compressor, an equalizer, and then there's fancier things, a limiter, a de-esser, noise gates. There's all types of things. Okay, so you can see those are types of things. It's a signal processing. It's not an effect. It's a signal processor, not an effect. It doesn't add anything fancy. By signal processing, I mean it cleans up the sound. It doesn't add anything fancy to it. No fancy effect. Okay? When you signal process something, you clean the sound up. You clean it up with a compressor or an equalizer or a limiter. A de-esser is like when you sing, you get those S sounds and P sounds, popping noises in the mic. You know? The de-esser can take those out. You know? Okay, so the next one would be the parallel signal processing. Now don't let this diagram scare you. It kind of got real big. Okay, all it basically does is, like right here, we take the dry signal and mix it in with a little bit of the fancy effect. That's why you can see, you can still see the blue signal processed sound, and then we add the fancy effect to it. So both sounds are actually happening. You know, the dry sound is unaffected. It's still changed by the equalizer and the compressor and stuff like that. But then we have another sound on top of it that we mix in, and that's where the echoes and the delays and the weird sound effects are. And the two sounds are mixed together. You know, so you have a dry sound and the fancy sound mixed. So that's what they mean by parallel signal processing. Both sounds are running in parallel. And then you usually have a knob here that you can control how much you want to mix in. You want to mix in just a little bit of echo, or you want to mix in a whole lot of echo. You know. So you can see here, we still have the other one. We still do serial signal processing. Everything goes through an equalizer, a compressor, and things like that. You know, it helps clean up the sound. We still have those happening. Okay? And after we clean up the sound here, it comes out of there, and then it goes into an effects loop. On most machines, keyboards, guitar amps, any type of box you'll see in a big rack, you know, there's usually something called an effects loop. And what that does, it takes the signal out, left and right, goes into the effects box, whatever that might be. An effect is added to that sound. Whatever the effect might be, it might be an echo, it might be a reverb, it might be all kind of weird sound effects, right? And then it's sent out of the box, left and right for stereo, and then it's mixed in with the dry signal. And those effects, you know, here's just a few of them. Reverb, chorus, delay is just a fancy word for echo, distortion, flanger, you know. So when you have your main signal left unchanged, it's unchanged some, right? Because we cleaned it up over here in the other serial signal processing. But we added some fancy effects on top of it here, just to brighten things up, you know, or change it up a little bit. You know. That's why it's called parallel, because both signals, plain and mixed, dry and wet, are running together. So that might be a little tricky to understand. So just to play around with this some, see, like if we come back to here, they don't have a lot of regular serial signal processing here. They got an equalizer here, and then if you upgrade to the full version, they have a compressor. Normally, these types of signal processing, those are added afterwards. You know, the sound comes out of the keyboard, goes into the mixing board, and then it's changed there. When we get into the sequencers, you'll see what I'm talking about there. And that's why I was saying this guy looks pretty cool, because you have 19 effects to add on afterwards. 19 bucks. I mean, in my younger days when I had the store, one effects box could be 300 bucks, easy, for a cheap one. Here they're giving you 19 effects for 20 bucks. I mean, that's dirt cheap, you know. Good name, it's Korg. You know, I'm sure there's better names, you know, more respected names, but can't beat Korg. Okay, so most of these, you can see most of these are sounds that you would use as parallel. See, all of the reverbs would be parallel. That would be this guy here. Early reflection, I'd never heard of that one. That's just a fancy reverb or something, I don't know. Echo. Chorus is just like a whoa 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 sound. Flanger is like a big whoa 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 sound. Phaser is like a swishing sound. Yeah. Tremolo is just another whoa 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 sound. Yeah. I hope you know what an equalizer does, right? You can add more bass or take out bass. You know. Real quick there, you know, you can study equalizers for a long time or months. But what most people do is, like, if you have a sound that's too jumbled up, it sounds muddy, they'll add more highs, right? You want the sound to come out clearer. Well, that's not always good, because the sound is still muddy down here, and you add more highs up here. That doesn't clear up the muddiness down here. So you have a sound here that's muddy, you take out some of the lows, and then this sounds clearer here. So that's called cut, C-U-T, cut EQ. You know, every song is different, every sound is different, but that's just something to keep in mind. You know. Bass guitar, the drums are carrying the low end. So your keyboard sounds by themselves might sound a little thin, but the overall sound of the song will sound correct, because the bass guitar and the drums are carrying the low end, where you're more in the mid-range and high end. So the exciter, I would call that a serial, because you just want to brighten up the sound overall. That mainly gets back to the old analog tape. The old analog tape always the highs didn't record real good, so you would use an exciter to brighten things up when everything was done. You know. This symphonic ensemble, I have no idea. That's not a normal effect. Rotary speaker, back in the old rock and roll days, some of the amps had a speaker that went around, and it had a weird sounding effect. I've never seen one live, I've just seen them in videos. But reverb is probably the main effect you add to everything. You know, common saying there's everything on the radio is reverb to the max. So of course, here they're just combining things. That's cool, because I was wondering, because like here you can only have two things, but if you choose this guy here, you can have a little reverb and delay, and then you can add another one here. So you can actually have like 3 effects going here. Okay. Okay, so I think that's good for this video. It took a little longer than I thought. I thought it was going to be a short video, but next video we'll play with some of the sounds and see what they sound like. I think if you kind of followed what I was doing here, that you might be able to go in and fool around with those, so and kind of understand what's going on now. Okay, see ya, bye.